Awesome. Welcome, everyone. I guess we can just start, and if other people join, they can just catch up, but we'll start. So let me just open here. So you can see that we have a chat box here on the right. Well, it's probably on the right for you too. So as we go, feel free to leave comments, questions, and then I'll just answer them at the end so we can chat. You'll see this is more of a conversation. We can chat back and forth. Maybe not the traditional webinar format that you're used to. I really want this to be informal. It's a chat, so feel free to leave any questions, any comments as we go. And yeah, today's topic is sales mindset and authenticity. So this is what we'll be talking about today. My name is Ligia. I'm a mindset coach and an aligned action strategist for entrepreneurs. So I basically work with entrepreneurs and startups, business owners on aligning their mindset with their business goals. So I work with the spiritual and the practical side, a lot of energy work as well, if you're into that. And here's where you can find me. So I have the Facebook private group where we do a lot of free trainings, workshops, resources, and everything there for you to stay consistent with your mindset routine. Here is my Instagram website if you want to send me questions to my email as well. And I'll recap this by the end if you want to stay in touch. And here's what we'll cover today. So when it comes to sales mindset, like every other aspect regarding your mindset, it goes back to your old conditioning. So things that we learned, how we've conditioned these beliefs to form, how we perceive things in the moment. So we'll start with your old stories. So understanding maybe why you might have some resistance when it comes to selling and promoting your work, promoting your offers. Then we'll cover sales as service, and I'll explain more about this when we get to step number 2, reframing that. So how we can shift those beliefs, shift those stories, and really conditioning a new way to see your sales, right? Because it always comes down to how you perceive the process. So more than the actions you do take is the energy that comes across, the energy that you have behind them. So this is what will help reframe during this webinar. Last step is reinforcing that message. So once you reframe, how you can stay consistent and really integrate this. So this is not just something that you heard once during a webinar and then we never touch again. I really want you to leave this little session with a takeaway, with different practices, different ways that you can connect to this new mindset on a daily basis, right? So it's really part of your work now. It's part of what you do and just really part of how you show up in your business. So yeah, we can get started. So you'll see also that through the steps, I'll give you a few questions. If you have a notebook, if you have a piece of paper, just make sure you take notes if you want to answer them as we go, and then we can review them together at the end. And so yeah, I'll ask you some questions. This is kind of a journaling exercise as we go as well. So you can do them on your end as we go. Does that sound good? And let me know in the comments if you have any questions. By the end, also, yes, sure. So I forgot to mention, so by the end, after conditioning, we'll have a few minutes for Q&A. So then if you have any questions as well, we can chat better about it in the end. So let's start with your stories. So what I mean by this is the way, and looking at mindset as your set of habits, beliefs, perceptions, right, of the world around you, of yourself. When you look at mindset as this set of combined thoughts and habits, you can see them as a result of your conditioning. So when we look at our sales mindset, it's the same thing. So what would be the pieces, that foundation of your current sales mindset? So the current way, how you feel about your sales, how you see yourself when it comes to sales, how you expect the results should go, right? So the way you act, the way you think, and the way you feel are the three main pieces of this, let's call it this equation. So the main three pieces would be the way you think, the way you feel, and the way you act. This all forms your sales mindset. What are the stories and the beliefs, the stories you tell yourself when it comes to selling? And if you think of your sales mindset and any other mindset focus, for instance, but now we're talking about sales mindset. So this belief, this set of habits and everything behind the way you see yourself when it comes to selling in your business, you can look at that as a table. So imagine your current sales mindset as a table, and that table has 4 legs. Can be more, it can be less, but let's just picture, for the sake of the exercise, of the visualization here, let's just picture this table as a normal standard table with 4 legs. Those 4 legs are the stories that keep this table up, right? So the things that are sustaining that belief, the way you see yourself, the way you see your sales, the way you expect your clients to perceive your sales, all those things are being held up by these 4 legs. These 4 legs are going to be the stories. So what we try to do here and moving forward with the insights, the takeaways that you get from this webinar is you're going to knock down these legs one by one. So once you acknowledge what these stories are, you don't really need to change anything. It's not like we're going and trying to fix or really change any stories. We're just bringing your awareness. So by bringing your awareness and really just acknowledging what these stories might be, you already take away its power. So this is such a powerful exercise. It's just by you acknowledging something that maybe was going on under the surface, what are the stories that are behind it, by just bringing your awareness, you already disengage those stories. And that's the whole point when it comes to changing your autopilot. So if you think of your autopilot, your automated responses, your automated just the way you react to things, those are all things that are running on autopilot. You don't really choose consciously, I hope you don't, that when you're going on a sales call or a meeting, you're trying to sell and promote your offers, that you choose, I will feel really insecure about this, and I choose to not believe that I'm going to succeed, right? That's very unlikely. I don't think that that's what you consciously choose. But if that's how you feel, that's just an unconscious pattern. This is just an automatic, something that's been running on autopilot that you don't even have to stop and choose. It just happens. You don't really stop. When you're going on a sales call and choose, I'm going to feel like this, it just kind of happens, right? And let me know also in the comments if that resonates. I'll go back and read them by the end. So see if that's something you feel when, and actually let's take a moment to just think, if you want to write them down, start connecting to what those feelings are for you. So what sort of insecurities, fears, or doubts or other feelings come up when you promote your offers, when you think about selling, when you're actively selling. So all these things are just helping you bring that awareness to the stories that are behind it. So my point with this is, you see that these are not things you choose. These are just patterns that have been running on autopilot. So what do you think happens when you just bring your awareness to these processes? So what happens with something that was unconscious when you make it conscious? You just take away its power. The only reason why this has been your autopilot is because it's been an unconscious pattern. The moment you bring your awareness, you make it conscious, it's not your autopilot anymore. So see that it's not even about trying to change anything. That's not what we're going to try to do here. Of course, I'll give you the tools to help you reframe and see that differently. But when it comes to your stories, your conditioning, it's just about bringing your awareness, which makes the process really easy because this is what we'll do. So uncover those stories and those beliefs that you might have around sales in general And that will open so much, it just brings so much more ease to you in the process of selling, right? So what are your stories? And if that duck doesn't come up easily, you can ask yourself how you feel. So in the past, growing up, in the past months, it can be whatever time you prefer, but just look back and remember the way you felt when you were the one being sold to. So when someone, it can be on TV, it can be in person, it can be those sales cold calling, you know, when you got the TV company calling you at your house. So try and look back at all the times you remember that someone was trying to sell you something and reconnect with how you felt. So I'll give you a minute to catch up and think about those examples for you. So what that looks like for you. And this is my first exercise. So if you have a notebook, if you have a piece of paper, write down, and I'll give you a second to do this. So write down how you felt or how you feel, if that's something currently going on, how you usually feel when you're being sold to. So when someone is selling you something, what kind of feelings, emotions, thoughts come up? And just write them down. I'll give you a second, so we can review them together at the end. And if you want to explore this further, this is, of course, an exercise that you can take for after this webinar and just spend more time on it. But just for now, if you have maybe a couple things by now, if you have maybe a couple of feelings or thoughts, it's already perfect. So read these stories. How do they make you feel about sales? When you connect with this feeling that came up, so think about the feeling that you had when you feel like someone is trying to sell you something. Then what would be the belief you have around sales? So for example, if what came up for you is that you're feeling maybe forced, it's kind of pushy, you feel bothered because you feel like someone is trying to push something and force something on you. Just as an example, if that's the sort of feeling that came up for you, then what would be the result? How would that make you look at sales in general coming from that place? And then this is the sentence you can start writing is selling is, and see what comes up. So for each feeling, this is something you can do. If your answer was forceful, pushy, uncomfortable, then selling is fill in the blank and see what comes up. And let me see here. I'm checking your questions in the chat. Can you give me more time to complete the task? Yes, of course. I'll give you a couple more minutes to think about these feelings and the stories that come up for you. So if you're doing this now, if you're catching this as the replay, you're not catching us live, just do the exercise as you go, as if you were live. So the feelings that came up, and for each feeling, selling is fill in the blank. Right, so you're saying selling is unnatural. What else came up? Selling is forced, unnatural. Awesome. If you want to drop your feelings that are coming up as well, feel free to drop them in the chat. If you're live with us, of course. I got it. Selling is an art. Awesome. And not quick. Interesting. So yeah, think about it. Think of what's coming up for you and see. So see how powerful this simple exercise is. Look at the things that are coming up for you. So look at the beliefs that are coming up for you. Selling is when someone is trying to persuade me of something. And how does that feel if you feel like if you think that they're trying to convince, to persuade you of something, then how do you feel about selling? So see how powerful this little exercise is, because look what's coming up for you guys. So you're saying, my beliefs about myself, my feelings about selling are quite different. Right. Which also says a lot, right? Because if you see the process of selling and you see yourself and there's a kind of a misalignment there, you can see how that can come across when you are the one trying to sell, right? And you see you and selling as separate things that are not really in tune. So see, Dean says, sorry, are people writing in this chat? I cannot see any answers. Yeah, a few people are sending me their answers, so I'm just reading them out loud. You can probably see who's writing what, but feel free to write them for everyone as well. So see, guys, how this is such a powerful little exercise, because if you look at the answers that are coming up for you, what I'm hearing is, so selling is not quick, it's forced, maybe unnatural, maybe pushy. So if that's the belief that you have behind the selling process, how do you expect your own selling process to go? And see how that's so obvious and at the same time such a light bulb moment, right? Because by you just bringing your awareness to those old feelings, those perceptions, you can see how that will translate in your own sales calls, sales processes, meetings, talking to potential clients, the way that you are showing up in your business when you try to promote, right? If that's the belief that you have, even if it's not super negative, if your answer wasn't pushy, forceful, unnatural, but someone said, it's just not quick. So your belief is that selling is not easy and natural and quick, it's just, it can be easy. No, your story is that it takes effort and it takes time and it's this, yes, an art, but that it takes a lot of steps and it takes a lot of pieces and it's effort, right? So you're literally saying that it's a difficult process. It takes a lot, it takes time, it needs to unfold. So what are you experiencing in your business with your potential clients? Are you seeing them convert quickly and with ease? Or are you experiencing people that are on the fence and you need to nurture them and go back and forth and give it time to grow until during that decision making process, right? Until they really decide and go for the yes. See, and this is why I want you to have this on paper. Now I want you to think of what you are experiencing right now when it comes to selling in your business. And see if that's a reflection or not of the answers that you just wrote in exercise 1. So you can see that if you've been frustrating with how slow things are going, and you see that your story is that selling is an art that takes time, you can see how your current experience is just a reflection of that. If you're feeling a bit off or uncomfortable promoting, it doesn't feel that natural, and your belief is that, you know what, I felt pushed in the past and forced, so I believe that selling is not natural. See how that's the same thing you're perpetuating. So this is just a little exercise so you can bring your awareness. Again, this might be something that, when you take a step back and look at the big picture, you might think about it sometimes. But the key with this here is bringing your awareness. So this is in the front of your mind. You're really conscious, you're really aware of these stories. So next time you go on a sales call, you know that that's something you don't need to change and don't need to fix, but something to keep in mind. So when those feelings come up again, and we'll go also through another exercise to help you reframe that, but see that by just having your awareness, it can help you not go there. Because like we just said, the only reason this has been your autopilot is because you never took a moment to stop, take a step back, and choose differently. The feelings just come. If you're selling, you don't really stop to choose how you want to feel about selling. Maybe it's just going to come up and you feel uncomfortable. And that's unconscious. That's automatic. What we're doing with this is disengaging those stories. So you have that awareness. You know what your stories are. The moment you start feeling uncomfortable, you can now do differently. You can choose differently. So you can stop and say, look, this is why I'm feeling like this. This is just a result of me having that belief, that story. So you can choose to not let yourself get caught up in it. So of course, this is a practice. Of course, we're going to go further and help you reframe that belief. But the key here is having that awareness. And that's reassuring. Because if you're just proving to yourself that what you are experiencing is a mere reflection of those stories, what you do, you just choose to tell a different story. And this is what we'll do when we reframe. When you choose a different story and you really condition that different story, you change your subconscious beliefs, you change your autopilot, and you change the reflection, which is, in practical terms, you change how you're going to feel during your selling process. Does that make sense? Let me know what else comes up for you in the chat. So here's the thing. This is the key behind you just feeling natural, shifting from those stories that came up in, let's call it step 1, chapter 1, whatever you want to call it. So when we're talking about your old stories, here's the thing behind it. It's not about the action. It's not about how you're tackling your selling process. It's not about the tools that you're using doing a meeting or a sales call, or if you're doing cold calling. It's not about your strategy. Because look, I coach several entrepreneurs in a lot of different industries. And guess what? They all have very, very different marketing strategies and sales strategies and tools during a sales call, even the ones that are in the same industry. So when I'm coaching other coaches, I have people that sell and have sold out courses and online programs without one sales call. This is a client that just likes to DM people and on Instagram. So she sends DM. That is really how she aligned her mindset, how she found her aligned action, got her energy behind it, and that's what works for her. Then I have people where that doesn't feel aligned at all. And then you have sales call and you convert from that place. But whenever there's a kind of interaction where you don't have that call, you don't have that back and forth, chat in real time with audio, which would be the case with the first girl, for example, then that doesn't flow. That is the strategy that feels forceful. So my point with this is, it's not about the strategy. And I know we're all business people here. We have business plans and business strategies and tools and all of that. And that's great. It's here, it's available. It's of course something to help us go further and have the option so we know what we can choose from. But what comes across is your energy behind it. What is your real motivation? Maybe not conscious, maybe it's something that you just, like we were saying, is just unconscious. Maybe you didn't take a step back and a moment to choose. But what is your motivation behind it? What is the energy that is coming across? Because see that, and you probably experienced that with other things in your life, when you were being sold to, when you sold yourself, even besides sales. But when someone didn't even have the proper, let's call it the best strategy or the best tools, and you still sold. So that reminds me, I was just in Brazil for holidays, and Brazilian people, we are all really warm and open, and people are usually fun. So I remember those guys selling coconut by the road, just walking barefoot, selling coconut, and they have songs and they make up songs on the spot and rhymes, and it's just so fun. And the guy sells out. He sells all his freaking coconuts in seconds because he's just fully there. His energy, he's having fun. He wants to serve, he's feeling himself, he's having the best time. If you look at his strategy and his tools, you would probably see, if we're just analyzing the tools that he has, how prepared he is in terms of strategy, he would not be a big success if that's how we are analyzing that, right? Now, if you're looking at that as how fast, how easily people can sell out their stuff, then he's a hit. So all this should say that it's not, of course, applying it just as an example, and then you can apply that in your business. And of course, we have our marketing plan, we have our business strategy. So taking this with a grain of salt and applying to what makes sense for you in the direction you want to take your business, right? Of course, but bottom line is the energy that comes behind it. It's how you're showing up. So when you ask yourself, and that the second little exercise that we'll do, what is your real motivation behind it? And really get honest with yourself here in this exercise. I know we all know what you offer in your business, how you make a difference. So when you think of your ideal client, of course, you know how you want to make a difference, how you offer value to them. Of course, we all know that. But when you ask yourself, why do I want to sell? So think of your income goal for April. If you have courses, how many spots you want to sell for April. Think of your goal when it comes to sales for this month. And then ask yourself, why do I want to sell? Why do I want to sell this many euros? Why do I want to sell this many spots? Why do I want to convert this many clients? And again, I'll give you a few minutes here also to think about this. So really think why, kind of detaching from the correct answer, if you know what I mean, what would sound good in your business plan when you're planning out your quarter two, and you think, forget all that. Forget about the value you offer, unless that's, of course, the first answer that comes to your mind, but really think of your motivation behind it. Why do you want to sell? And I'll give you a moment here before we move forward. So why do you want to meet your goal? Why maybe you feel, because that might be the case, you feel like you need, is not even a want to meet your goals, but why maybe you feel like you need to meet your goals? And that's the energy that is going to come across. So here's the second big shift that you have to keep in mind, and that can be the turning point for you in your sales process, is scarcity or abundance. So this is another theme. We talked about abundance mindset, money and abundance mindset in another webinar. If you want to check that out also, you can watch the replay. But this was another webinar that we did all about abundance mindset. And one of the things that we touched there is how you can shift from a place of scarcity and fear, maybe needing that security, versus I know that I'm safe. I know that I have more than enough. I allow these clients to come and go and you're safe regardless. That's a huge shift in this energy that you have behind the way you're selling. So even more than the actions you're taking, when you think about the motivation and look at the answers that came up for you, if you want to share them here as well, but just look for yourself what came up for you as your motivation behind it. So why do you want to sell? Or maybe why do you need to sell? And see if that's coming from scarcity or from abundance. This is just a little quick exercise that you can take, asking yourself when it comes to everything in your business, really, but whenever you feel some sort of resistance, some sort of I feel like I'm pushing, or I'm feeling a bit stuck, you can always go back and ask, is this coming from scarcity or abundance? So is your need to sell coming from a place of I need to sell because I need to make this money, because I need to pay for something and the money is gonna run out, right? Or is this something else? So let's see what came up for you guys. I don't think my motivations are exactly positive. Isn't that bad energy? I think it's scarcity. So tell me more. Tell me more. What, if your motivations are not positive, what are those motivations? What kind of motivation is coming up for you? And that's okay. That's okay if what comes up is I need to sell because I need to feel safe because I need money. I need to sell because I make money. There's no shame in that. That's a perfectly okay, normal reaction and kind of motivation to have behind it if you just don't take a step back to look at that. So, right. So you guys are saying maybe disappointment that comes with a client earlier this year. I need money, but even more, I need to prove to myself that my business is viable, that I'm good at what I do, of course. And that makes sense, right? So you have maybe experiences that didn't give you that validation or you were disappointed with. So maybe now selling, meeting these goals means that you get that validation. I want to sell because I want to prove that I'm good at what I do. I want to validate my business, my abilities, my skills, right? And that's fine. But see that, so legitimize the idea I have for the business, right? So maybe validate that idea to prove that it's a viable business. So see, guys, how the same thing are coming up. Also validate the business to others more than myself. My motivation is the opportunity to prove. See how crazy it is that the same thing, you guys are typing from different places, different computers, the same thing, the same motivation came up for a lot of you. You need to sell, or you want to sell, to prove, to validate this business idea, to validate your business, to validate how capable you are, to get that validation from others, right? Validate the business to others. So see that that's super normal. Because it's coming up for a lot of you guys. And also see if that's your motivation, that's the energy that is coming across when you go out and sell, when you show up and sell. So how do you think the process is gonna go when your real motivation behind it, and that's not good or bad, but it's just how that autopilot has been running. So when you show up, you're in front of a client and you're selling, your motivation is, I need validation. So how do you think the process goes from there? And again, doing the same thing we did with the old stories. When you look at your current results, can you see that being a reflection of that? So when it comes to, let's use this example because it's coming up for a lot of you. So if it's needing that validation, what is the dynamic? How is the interaction and the energy that you, your client have when you're interacting in that sales process? Is that a reflection of that need for validation? Could that be you kind of asking, begging, or being sometimes even apologetic, or kind of in that position, wanting the client to validate, wanting that thing, and you put yourself in a lower place because you need that validation? So maybe some insecurities, you feel more fragile. Or if something else came up for you in this exercise, whatever it is, just look at your current results, how you currently are experiencing your sales process, your interaction with clients, how you feel, most importantly, how you feel during this interaction with clients, and see if that makes sense, that is just a reflection of your motivation behind it. Because see, it's all about the energy that is coming across. That motivation, even if it's something that you didn't, again, like the old stories, you didn't stop to choose. So you sit down, you're planning your quarter, and you say, I choose that my motivation will be to feel secure and safe and validate my idea. So it's not that, but still that can be your autopilot motivation. And that's going to come across. That will be the deciding factor of how those interactions are going to go, how people will perceive you, how you will feel throughout the process. If you feel like you need validation, that sort of insecurity and need, and not really deeply rooted in your confidence of what you're selling, and knowing that, of course, this idea, of course, this business, that's probably not going to be how you feel during the process. Of course, it goes back to your motivation. So really take a step back and see the sort of feelings and emotions that come up for you. Because the thing is, and here's maybe the main or one of the biggest keys when it comes to sales mindset. It's not about you. And I'm not saying that in a way that, you're a bad person because you're selfish and you're making it all about you. Let's drop that judgment, right? It's not about that. Let's look at it with compassion, knowing that it's normal. This stuff comes up, like we're just seeing here. We unfold maybe stories, beliefs, things that were under the surface that we didn't really stop to choose. They just came because that's automatic. So that need for validation, that need for financial security or stability, that fear that you're not gonna make ends meet, so you need to sell, all those things are perfectly natural to come up. But the thing to acknowledge here and to remember is that it's not about you. So this is such a simple shift, but see that all these stories, all these motivations that are coming up are around you, right? So it's your need to validate something, to feel secure, to feel confident, to feel financially secure. So all these things are you, are ways that you want to feel. Does that make sense? So see how the result of those stories and the motivation you're coming from is all around the way you want to feel. And the simple shift you can do here, instead of trying to fight and avoid and change these things, is that just acknowledge that these are beliefs and expectations around you. And your selling process is not about you. So actually, you don't even need to fight that. You don't even need to change that in radical ways, because it's not what matters. You can just shift your focus. If it's not about you, even that expectation to validate something, you see that being part of your expectations, your feelings. And you can remember that selling is not about you. So by shifting, you can let go of that pressure also. because you can still have all those expectations and all those things for yourself. Actually, there's a way to shift that as well, but that's a topic for another webinar. But when it comes to selling, you can let go of those expectations, that need for validation, that need for financial security, all of those things, put them aside and just remember that you're selling to someone. This is about your potential client. This is about how you serve. So if there's any frustration there with how you are feeling, you can just shift your focus. You know that doesn't get to affect the way you're showing up when you're selling, because it's not about you. So how can you see the process from their side? How can you look at your sales process from your client's perspective? If it's not from your expectations and your motivations and what you want to feel, see from their side. The question to ask here is, how can I serve? So how do you serve? My silence is me giving you a moment to reply, to write it down. Me saying that this is the next question. How can I serve? See that by just asking that instead, you're not selling because you need to meet those needs from your end. Is how you can meet the needs from their end. How do you add value? How do you serve? And shifting your focus to that, how you bring impact. Something you can do here to support your strategy is, instead of having money goals, what are your impact goals? Instead of wanting to make 5K, how many people do you want to impact? Instead of selling this much, how many spots do you want to sell? How many people are you serving when you sell this out? So by shifting from money goals to impact goals, you're automatically changing your focus from your need and those validations, fears, from that place to how they feel instead. How do you serve? What is the value? How do you impact? And see that when you shift your motivation to that, that's the energy that comes across. So see how different that is. And I'll give you another moment to think about the way you serve, your value, and your impact before we move any further. So how do you make a difference? If you do sell this thing, if they do convert, how is this making a difference to them? And think about that. Share your answers also if you want here in the chat. So how are you making a difference? What do they get to feel by you selling to them? What do they get to do? How do they get to grow by you selling to them? How do they get better by you selling to them? So when you ask yourself, how do they benefit? How do they get to grow? What they get by me selling to them? That's the energy that will come across. So see that let me know what comes up for you. If what comes up for you is they get to, and well, that depends on what you're offering, right? But let's just take an example here. If you say they will feel, they will have more time. Let's say you're outsourcing something, they are outsourcing something, you're helping them with something in their business. So by me selling this to them, they will have more time to focus on other things. They will experience more freedom and that relief. Let's say that's your answer. So that's the energy that comes across. The new mindset changes the selling experience from negative to positive. Right, exactly. I'm glad that that's how you feel. So see that you're just shifting the whole experience from negative to positive. Exactly. It's not coming from lack. It's coming from abundance. It's not coming from scarcity and lack. It's coming from abundance. It's not you trying to fill the void and meet the needs and get the validation. It's you just adding value. Niam said, my mind is a little blown. I'm glad. Clients feel in control. They have insight into a process that was unclear to them. They have someone to hold their hand. Awesome. So that's what they get by you selling to them, right? It's easy to get lost in your tunnel. Exactly. It is. So this is why it's important to just take a step back and work on your own mindset. Because you see the big picture. You shift your focus and you just choose differently. You disengage all those old stories and all those old conditioning and things that were keeping you stuck running unconsciously and repeating the same patterns. You just take a step back, choose to reframe, and you completely take away the power of this process. So this is really powerful. And Anya says, so her clients, by her selling to them, they feel in control. They have insights to something that was unclear. They have someone to hold their hand. They feel in control. They feel secure. They feel more confident. They have clarity. So what was your motivation before? It was, let me see here, because you mentioned, right. So your motivation before was maybe your autopilot motivation was needing validation. You want to sell because you want to validate a business idea. How do you feel when you say, I want to sell because I want them to feel in control, have clarity, and feel more confident? Feel at ease, have these insights, and feel in control. See how your energy selling to them shifts, because that's what they're experiencing. That's what comes across. So imagine you having a sales conversation with a client coming from a place of, I need to validate this idea, because you don't have to say that with all words, right? That comes across in your energy. So imagine a sales conversation, you coming from a place of, I need to validate this business idea, or you coming from a place of, I want you to feel in control and empowered and supported. And again, looking at the process from their perspective. So if that's how you're putting and that's what you're putting out, that's the energy you're coming across, what would they were perceive instead? How would they see you in those two situations? Imagine now that you're your client. You are your client and you're having that sales conversation. Version A, you're being talked to from a place of, I need to validate this idea. Version B, I want to help you feel in control, have clarity, and feel supported. Which one would make me convert? So Niam says, clients have more time to invest in the rest of their business, can make more efficient to use their skills and resources. Awesome. So by you selling to them, they have more resources. They have more time. They are more efficient. They can manage all this better, and they have just more freedom to grow the rest of their business. Again, picture that same thing. So do that same exercise. You are your client, and then you are being talked to. Your motivation before, that was that scarcity, disappointment from an old client, and then that ended up being the need for money. and need to prove yourself. So imagine you're your client and you're being talked to from a place of, I need to prove that this business is really good and worth it and I can make it worth and I need money. Versus, I want to help you have more time to invest in the rest and make everything more efficient. If you're your client, which one would throw you off and which one would you be drawn to? Yes, exactly. So this is such an easy way to reframe that. And just a little exercise that you can repeat. Because again, this is all about you having the resources to do this by yourself moving forward, not just something you practice here in the webinar, but whenever you feel any resistance, you're feeling stuck, something is not flowing, you're feeling that frustration, maybe expectation, if something feels off, this is a little exercise that you can do. So take again these steps. You can see your stories. You can, Marta says, that's very cool. Oh, awesome. Yeah, it's really powerful because it's just the step-by-step that you can take to take a step back and choose differently. Reframe that, right? So sales as service. So what is your real motivation there? You can always ask yourself, what is my energy? Where is my energy coming from? I'm doing this. I'm feeling like that. What is my energy coming from? What is my real motivation here? And then, is it coming from lack and scarcity or abundance? Then shift. You can just bring your awareness, see what is coming up there, then see that from your client's perspective. So instead of you coming from that motivation, how do you serve? How do you add value? What would they get? Instead of what you are trying to get, that's your motivation, what are you trying to get, is what would they get by me selling to them? And this takes us to step number 3. This is a reframe. This is how you can reframe, because see, when you go back to the old stories that came up, and number 1, so when we're talking about your stories, and a lot of you said, selling feels unnatural, it's pushy, it's maybe forceful, I'm trying to convince, I'm trying to persuade someone. So this is how you reframe. Instead of I am pushing, because if this is how selling looks for you, this is what you would be doing, right? If you feel like selling is pushing, convincing, enforcing, when you sell, you would be pushing, convincing, enforcing. Now, what if instead of pushing, convincing, enforcing, you are extending the opportunity to them? You are just giving them this opportunity. If the way you serve, how you add value, so what would they get? The last question that you just asked yourself, what would they be getting by me selling to them? And it's all these amazing things: more freedom, clarity, extra resources, more time. What else came up for you guys? Let me read here. So you said, yes, they feel in control, they feel empowered, supported. So that's what they would get. So see how it's such a powerful reframe, because you're coming from I am pushing and convincing and forcing to I am extending them the opportunity to feel more empowered, more in control, more just free, with extra resources and all these amazing things. So how do you feel about yourself selling with this new way? Instead of I'm being pushy, I'm just extending you the opportunity to feel more in control, because this is what you would be getting by me selling to you. You're doing them a service. By you actually not extending them this opportunity, you're doing a disservice, because you can help them with that. You can make them feel all these new amazing things. You can help their growth. And by you not putting that out and not extending them the opportunity to have that, you're doing them a disservice. If you can help them feel more empowered and secure and free, you might as well extend them the opportunity. By you selling, so how do you feel? And let me know, how do you feel when you look at you selling? Does it feel any different when you think of you pushing and trying to convince them of something versus you extending them the opportunity to feel like that. So that's something you can repeat to yourself. Instead of, I am convincing, I'm trying to persuade, I'm trying to push something here. And instead, you can repeat to yourself, I am extending them the opportunity to feel like that, to get this thing, feel that other thing. Anya said, I would happily give this service for free if I could afford it. And I did do this in the past. I find it difficult to transition to the position where I can get paid for it. Right. So you know that that's the value you want to offer. You even did it for free. Now, what is your resistance around getting paid for that? And this is something you can ask yourself. This is another journaling exercise that you can just reflect on it. What am I resisting? What is your resistance when it comes to receiving money for it? And one way to reinforce that, to shift and just reframe that, is using affirmations. So affirmations such as, I am extending the opportunity for them to feel like this. By me selling to them, by me selling to my clients, they get to feel like this, get this other benefit. These are all things that you can write down even every day and repeat to yourself to just reinforce a new story. So what would your new belief look like? If you would say, I offer massive value and I deserve to be massively compensated. Because see, the thing is, selling is nothing more than an exchange of energy. It's an exchange of service, an exchange of energy. It's, even if you don't think of money, let's think, years back when I would give you a cow and you would give me a pig. I would give you milk and then you would give me eggs. It's not money. Selling is an exchange of goods. It's an exchange of energy. So if it's selling, it's just an exchange of goods. You are giving something and getting something in return. I am giving you the cow, you give me your pigs. You give something and you get something in return. What would make you feel off would be, I am not giving anything and still getting the pigs. Then you could feel, I'm kind of scamming someone here, I'm scamming the cow owner. But that's not the case, is it? Because you just said, by me selling to my client, they get all this massive transformation. They feel empowered, they gain clarity, they get all this good stuff. So this is what you give. What would they give in return? That may be money. Money is just flow and exchange of energy. The selling process is just an exchange of energy. So how does this reframe work for you? And you can think of your own little resistance, blocks here and there when you feel awkward, maybe about receiving money. Yeah, I really encourage you to check out the other webinar that we did on abundance and money mindset, because we talked a lot about this, about maybe if you feel apologetic or weird receiving money and you say you want more money, but then when money comes your way, you're like, almost pushing it away because you feel awkward, you feel bad for the other person. That's just blocking that flow of energy. That's just blocking that flow of exchanging goods and exchanging energy. So how can you allow the process instead? Because you can choose to allow or block it. Does that make sense? So when you look at the sales process, besides money, when you look at sales as an exchange of you giving goods and receiving goods, you give something and you get something, everyone is winning. We're just exchanging energy here. You can connect to what you're offering and allow them to give it back. Allow them to give something back because you're offering A, they're giving you B. Yep. Okay. Cool. Yeah. I'm glad it makes sense. I'm glad it resonates because that's the whole point. This is the energy of selling. And we make it way more complicated when we when we come from those old stories and those old blocks and the things that we just disengaged until now. Once you do that, you can look at the sales process as what it is, an exchange of energy, an exchange of goods. And then you can allow that process to just flow more naturally. Does that make sense? And that brings us to the authenticity part. You can just be yourself, and you can offer what you want to offer, and you can come across with that authentic energy from that authentic place, because you know what? You're just serving. You're serving, and when that's the energy that you're coming from, instead of those old motivations, the autopilot that we disengaged, that's when you get to be yourself. If selling feels unauthentic to you, you're probably coming from those autopilot motivations, from those old stories, from the need of something, more from lack and scarcity than abundance. And that creates the need of you showing up, putting out something different, having to make something work, having to push, having to convince, having to persuade. So all these things that are coming from those needs, right? Coming from autopilot and from lack and scarcity, they all create that need of you to push and persuade and convince, because they're trying to force. Now, when you shift and you're coming from that place of serving, allowing the process to flow, you get to just be yourself. That's when it's easy to just sell being authentic. Because you know what? You know you have everything you need. You know you have more than enough. You're coming from abundance, right? Not from lack and scarcity. You know that you're offering value. You know that you're serving. You're confident in the transformation you're giving your client. You're focused on that instead of what you need. You're focused on how you want to make them feel. There is nothing else more, right, that you need to feel. No filling the void. So you don't need to force, you don't need to push, you don't need to persuade them. Why would you need to persuade your client to buy something, convince them to buy something, when you don't even need them to? And you're just offering them something extra. Look, I'm offering you the benefit of feeling like this, of having all these amazing things. So there's no need to persuade them. You know, it's me coming to you and offering you $1 million. I don't really need to push and persuade. I can trust the value I'm offering. Of course you want that. And when that pressure is released, I can just talk to you from that energy, from that authentic place and being myself. I can just share value and trust that that's enough. And I don't need to convince you of anything. I don't need to force and push you to do anything, to buy from me. I'm just sharing what I want to share. And then, like Anya said, I'm sharing what I want to share, and then I allow the sales process to complete, because I also allow you to do your part in it. So I offer my value and I allow you to give me your part in return. So how does that feel instead when you come from that authentic? Marta said, whoa, this is amazing. I'm so glad. I'm so glad it resonates. And this is all it takes to shift. You're coming from your authentic natural energy, because there's nothing else to prove. It doesn't need to be pushy. And you also allow the sales process, so you allow them to pay you. It feels good when people pay you, right? It's a reminder that you're offering them that value. It gets you feel good. That's another affirmation that I like to use every day. It gets you feel good. It gets to flow. I get to be paid, and it feels good because I know I'm serving, right? You're not pushing, you're helping them. I happily pay for service or goods I value, and need to see that others feels like this about my product too. Exactly. So when you think of the things that you love to buy, so I'm currently obsessed with crystals. So I'm just getting new crystals for my collection. I'm the crazy crystal lady now. And I just get excited. The crystal might cost whatever it costs. I don't really care, because every time I buy one, I'm like, oh, this is so exciting. I got a new crystals. I just love it. It's not the price tag. So think of what that looks like for you, and just those things that you value, the service, the goods, that you just like to pay for because it feels good to you. That's also food for me. I love to go out, have my brunch, go to nice restaurants. I love paying for food. So when that's the case, I'm just happy. I'm happy with my pancakes. I'm not worried about the price tag. I'm just really happy. So what if your clients feel the same way about what you offer? How can you be the pancake to your clients? Right? So think of the things that you value. How can you bring that same excitement to them? And that's when you can shift, coming from that place, you can take a step further and go to conditioning. So once you have this reframe, once you shift, you bring that awareness, you disengage those stories, you see your autopilot, you choose differently, and you just shift your focus. Condition. Now it's time to condition that, because this is all amazing shifts and reframes. But as I said, I don't want you guys to just think and feel those things right now in the webinar and then forget about it. So you go back to old ways. So how can you really condition and integrate this new way of seeing, of looking at your selling process? And that's the power of consistent mindset work. When it comes to having a morning mindset routine, I know that can sound scary or overwhelming because you think, I already have so many things on my plate, I don't have time for this, or it feels overwhelming to have a daily practice of something new. But mindset work can look as easy and as simple as taking 5 minutes in the morning, sometimes even less. Just a second for you to connect with your intention. With your intention setting, if that's a practice that works for you. If you want to meditate, if you want to journal, there are many, many ways to reinforce and practice mindset work. But when it comes to selling, so from this webinar, the takeaways that you got from this, the shifts, the ways that you realized you need to shift your perspective. So the reminders you want to give yourself. So here's what I want you to ask yourself. After all this, after what you recognize, the things you uncovered, the shifts you have, what is the one thing, maybe more than one. So what are the things I want to remind myself of? So what are the things you want to remind yourself more often? What do you need to remember more often about you, your business, sales, the way you serve, the way your clients feel about your serving? What are the things that you want to remember more often? And then take a moment to write them down. I'm going to give you a second. If you wrote them down already and you think, oh, that's a really good one, just highlight whatever shift came up for you. What are the things that you want to remember when you're selling? So you hold the feeling that you have now after this exercise. Another question you can ask yourself is, if I start feeling like, and then fill in the blank, like your old way, that insecurity, the need for validation, if I start feeling like that, I will bring myself back by fill in the blank. So if I start feeling like that, I will bring myself back by, and then that can be remembering that something, reminding myself of this, reconnecting with this. How are you going to bring yourself back if those old feelings come? Tina has to leave. Thank you very much. It's been great. You're so welcome. I'm glad you enjoyed. So See what's coming up for you. What are the reminders that you want to hold? And these are the things that you want to reinforce on a daily basis. On a daily basis. So that's the power of mindset work. Mindset work can look as easy as setting an intention for the day or giving yourself those reminders. So imagine the power that this can have in your business if every morning, and especially in the morning, because that's when our subconscious neural pathways are more open to suggestion and it's just easier to rewire. So that's the perfect time just after you woke up is the perfect time to reinforce those messages, to rewire those old stories and just practice mindset work to reinforce all these new things that you're working on. So imagine just how powerful it can be for your business if every morning you connect to this feeling that you have right now about the way you're selling, about how easy the process is, about allowing the process to go in the exchange of energy and all the shifts that you had. So the reminders that you just wrote, the things that you want to remember. Imagine how powerful that can be if that's the feeling you connect to every single morning before showing up in work. So before going on a sales call, instead of just being on reactive mode, where you wake up, things happen, you go about your day, you're just reacting to whatever comes up, and then allowing that without realizing, but allowing the autopilot to run the show. Because like we said in the beginning, autopilot just happens when you don't take a step back to choose differently. So how is your selling process going when that's the case? When you wake up, you go to work, you go about your day, reacting, just reacting mode. You don't take a step back to choose differently, and you make room. You just create space for that autopilot, those old stories to run how you're showing up, and then also run how you feel and the energy that you're coming from when you sell, right? How does that feel versus from when you wake up? But instead of just going about your day, you just take one moment to take a step back and choose differently. And choose that you're connecting to this instead. I'm connecting to the knowing of my value, how I offer my service, how I help my clients, how you serve, all the benefits, all this transformation, everything that we just reframed. So how would that feel instead if that's what you connect to before showing up and selling? You're disengaging that old autopilot and you're choosing the empowered feeling instead. So that's conditioning. It's staying consistent. There's another webinar also that we did if you want to go check that out. It's under the same YouTube account on mindset routine if you're interested in exploring that further. But one thing that I would encourage you to do is just every morning or when you wake up or when you get to work, write down those reminders. So the same things that you just wrote, the things that you want to remind yourself, that's what you're going to remind yourself on a daily basis. So by doing that, I'll explain how it works from an energy standpoint and a practical side, because that's my approach. I call it actionable woo. So that's combining energy work with the practical stuff. From an energy standpoint, really long story short, that feeling, your new improved belief, has a certain energetic blueprint, has a certain vibration. By you repeating that every morning, you're matching your own vibration to that. You're becoming a vibrational match to the way you want to feel, to the energy of that best version of you that shows up like that and is confident in the selling process. From the practical standpoint, you're rewiring your brain. You're creating new neural pathways. You're changing the way your subconscious works and you're shifting your focus. You're shifting your autopilot. So that's what you do when you repeat these things on a daily basis. That's what we are doing. And I will leave the name here for you if you want to go check it out. That's what we're doing in my private Facebook group, the Mindset in Actionable Woo Facebook group. We're doing free accountability pods for mindset work. So I'm dividing everyone there in small groups so we can help each other stay accountable, stay on track, and just stay on top of this daily mindset practices, because it's just easier to do it when you have other people doing it with you and pushing you. So it's really every day there. I share different exercises, prompts, journaling, links, just different easy, quick things that you can do every day to align your mindset and stay on top of your game, because that's what it takes. It takes daily, I don't want to say daily work, because it's not effort, but it does take connecting to these feelings and these intentions on a daily basis to condition this. So you'll see all the resources there in the Facebook group if you want to join there. Here's also other ways that you can stay in touch if you want to explore this further. You'll see that I have a lot of content on mindset routine, how to make those shifts and reframe old beliefs. And we have a few minutes still for a quick Q&A, if you have anything else coming for you. Obrigada, obrigada de nada. This has been super useful for me in this moment of my life. Oh, I'm so glad this helps. Do you guys have any other questions? Anything else that came up for you? This was a bit longer than expected, but I hope it was helpful. So you can let me know here in the chat. Also, if you're just catching the replay, of course, we don't have the live chat, but feel free to reach out in the Facebook group, watch all the free live workshops about mindset, money mindset, sales mindset, morning mindset routine, or just feel free to send me a message in any other of these platforms. It was super helpful. Thank you so much. Thank you. It has been really helpful. I'm so glad. You're welcome, guys. So glad it helps. It's always really fun for me to share these things. So I also had a great time. Thanks, Ligia. You're so welcome. Cool, guys. Well, I'm glad to know that this resonates and it helps you. Let's stay in touch. Let me know if you have any other questions. Let me know how this changes the way you're feeling about selling. I would love to hear back from you if you experience something new, how you feel about it now. So let's stay in touch. And yeah, I hope you guys have a great day. And I hope I talk to you guys soon. Bye, everyone.